Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic. This is a title that not only managed to be one of the fastest and best-selling titles for the Xbox, but this game has also been considered to be one of, if not the greatest Star Wars title, RPG, and all-around video game of all time. The funny thing about this? The storyline of this game has no connection to the films, which I personally feel is unfortunate, but I'll get into that later. This game was initially released in 2003 for the Xbox, and later released on the PC. This game was so popular that it has even been re-released on Steam, and is still backwards compatible with the Xbox 360. This is the version of this game that I will be looking at in this video. So, just what are my thoughts on this RPG epic? Well, no sense wasting any more time, let's take a look and find out. This game begins roughly 4,000 years before the rise of the Galactic Empire. Well, it is called Old Republic for a reason. Here is the situation. The current Republic is in dire trouble after coming out of a massive war with a warrior race named the Mandalorians. To make matters worse, a former Jedi named Darth Malak is using his current Sith army to lay waste to the Republic whenever he sees fit. One of the only saving graces the Republic has aside from the Jedi Council is a Jedi Knight named Bastila, who uses her power of battle meditation to turn the tide of most encounters. Unfortunately for her and the Republic, Malak has set his sights specifically on her in hopes of using her power for his own causes. This is where you come in. At the beginning of the game, you may set your background to either a scout, scoundrel, or soldier, which will not only give you different starting abilities, but also make up for your background. One day, or night, it's kinda hard to tell in space, the Republic's cruiser on which you are stationed comes under attack by Malak's forces. After fighting your way through Sith boarding parties, you encounter a Republic war hero named Carth Onasi, who helps you escape the ship and land on the planet of Terrace. It is here that you discover that Bastila has been taken captive, as she also crash-landed off of the same vessel. Once you manage to rescue her, it is then discovered that you are somewhat Force-sensitive, as both you and Bastila receive visions of both Darth Malak and his former master Darth Revan. These visions show the duo searching ruins for clues of a creation named a Starforge. It is then that you are taken to Dantooine for Jedi training. This training, to the surprise of both your party members and the Jedi Council, goes extremely smoothly as you are clearly heavily gifted with the Force. Soon after, you discover that there are 4 maps which are stationed on the desert planet of Tatooine, the forest of Kashyyyk, the lush waters of Manaan, and the Sith homeworld of Korriban that will lead you to the Starforge. So, it's up to you and the members of your crew to find these star maps and stop the Dark Lord Malak, all while attempting to outrun the Sith Armada, Dark Jedi, Sith apprentices, and not to mention fighting the multiple treacherous creatures native to these planets. For your sake, I hope the Force is strong with you. This game has a turn-based battle system, but you will get more control over the combat than you may think. Combat is engaged once an enemy is spotted and you decide to actively begin the encounter. Both you and your opponent take turns attacking, with varying amount of hits depending on your current weapon, skill, or force power set. For instance, having a one-handed weapon gives you less hits per turn, but you will hit more accurately. Dual wielding or having a two-handed weapon will usually hit less accurately, but you can level up skills to negate most of the penalty. Once in combat, you may decide to simply attack, use a special attack, use a force power, or use an item for your turn. However, you are not alone in your quest for good, or evil, or neutrality if you prefer, so you also may gain control of your allies at any point in the battle. This gives you more control over the situation if you prefer that your allies act more in sync with your playstyle. This is also a good thing, as you may also pause the battles to plan your next move. This being an RPG, as you battle enemies, both you and your party will of course level up. As you level up, you will be able to upgrade skills such as repair, hacking, and healing. attributes such as dexterity, charisma, and strength, powers, which are powers, and feats which are mostly used towards combat specialties and occasionally add bonuses to certain attributes. Once you become a Jedi, you may pick from one of 3 Jedi classes, which will determine how often you are able to level up each of these talents. Speaking of your party, let's talk about them. Now, true to the BioWare formula, depending on your choices, some of these members may not be in your party at all, or may abandon you due to moral and or philosophical disputes. But aside from Carth and Bastila, these members consist of a Twi'lek scoundrel and her Wookiee friend, a former Mandalorian warrior, a protocol droid, an assassin droid with a general disdain for human life, a current misguided Jedi Knight, and a former old and bitter Jedi Knight. Like many other BioWare games, having conversations with these members will unravel their background, along with not only allowing for more missions, but also revealing more details about the plot overall. Not to mention, many of these characters, including yourself, may just have some connections that you don't know about. Overall, this game should easily take you over 20 hours to complete, and possibly much longer depending on how much trouble you run into, or how many side missions you decide to do. Now for the reviewing. Graphically speaking, this game was quite impressive for its time, showing some fantastic visuals in the cutscenes, and even presenting an absorbing amount of detail in both the alien races and the environments. However, some of these visuals do look a bit dated, specifically lying with many of the standard enemies, not to mention some of the characters are severely lacking facial expressions. Moving on to the gameplay, well, let's put it this way. If you're playing this on the PC or original Xbox, then you should have virtually no trouble. The combat flows extremely smoothly, and interacting with objects, party members, and the camera present little to no challenge. However, if you are playing the game on the 360 with a backwards compatibility patch, you may have some trouble. Just what kind of trouble, you ask? Oh, nothing really. It's just that the audio will lag like crazy in many dialogue scenes, or just cut out. During combat-heavy scenarios, the game itself may lag like crazy, leaving you to sit back and cross your fingers hoping that you and your party are able to face the current threat without supervision. And then there's the matter of the joystick. If you move the joystick while interacting with an object or in combat, the game will cancel your current action. Well, sometimes the game will insist that you are moving when you are not. The problem with these issues, many of them can and will get you killed. So if you played this version, I hope you stick to the old video game adage of save early, save often. The only real gameplay issue I have aside from a faulty patch is the fact that in my experience, blasters are highly ineffective in this game. Now, most people will just move on to the lightsaber once they become a Jedi anyway, but even once you gain proficiency with blaster rifles or pistols, I found them to be highly inaccurate and many times underpowered. Now, this is just personally speaking, and maybe some people who've played this had better luck than I, but personally, I would just stick to vibroblades until you get a lightsaber. Now let's talk about my absolute favorite aspect of this game, the story. Now, you may not know this about me, but I am a huge fan of the Star Wars universe, and I can honestly say that this is probably the best told and most interesting story from the saga that I've ever experienced. Allow me to elaborate. Not only do I feel that the main story is extremely engaging and well told, but even your parties and your own backstory are brilliantly intertwined into the main plot. But even aside from this, the game goes into issues usually not brought up very often in the Star Wars saga. In other words, this story does a fantastic job of showing all sides in a different light. For instance, you may meet Sith members who aren't inherently evil, they just personally believe in a different set of morals. And aside from these morals, they're just normal people. On the other side of that coin, you may also discover that while the Jedi have the best intentions for the galaxy in mind, many of their methods, including a major plot point, are very questionable and may have you conflicted on what exactly is the right thing to do in your present situation. So, in conclusion, what are my personal thoughts on this non-canonical look into the past of Star Wars? Well, personally speaking, I feel that this is not only one of the greatest RPGs I've ever played, but one of the greatest games I have ever played, period. I am serious. It is extremely rare that a video game manages to evoke an intellectual, philosophical, and emotional response from me, not to mention, it's just very fun to play. So, if you like RPGs and you like Star Wars, I cannot recommend this game enough. However, if you must play it, I would recommend either the original Xbox version or the PC version, as the issues with the Xbox 360 version can be extremely annoying, which makes one wonder why it isn't available on the arcade as of yet. So, until next time, this is E-Dog, may the Force be with you.